There's a lot of great stuff out there that doesn't get seen. And you can walk through Artist Alley and see tons of people doing cool stuff. A creator I just talked to the other day, his face lit up and he goes, "This is kind of like self-publishing with benefits." And he was like happy about it. I'm like, yes, exactly. We're not going to own your stuff. You can leave whenever you want. But if you want to get your books in the direct market, be in a cool imprint, we're your people. Get to the point. Hello, Dirk Manning here. I am the writer and creator of many comic books and graphic novel series, including Tales of Mystery, Nightmare World, Hope, Homestead, Love Stories About Death, and I also now proudly serve as publisher at SourcePoint Press. But you, my friends, are listening to Two Geeks Talking, which is just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to get out of here so you can get to all the good stuff.
You can't leave yet. It's your interview.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry, I was thinking that was like an independent sizzle reel. I'm sorry.
It's all good. No, that works out. I'll leave it in there. It's fun. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We are starting off 2026 with one of the long-standing returning guests that I've had on the show since we started back in 2008. Him and Trevor Mueller are both in the double digits when it comes to returning guests. And it's not to say that they've consumed all of my interviews over the past 17, 18, 19 years here, but it is safe to say that they are very talented individuals. But we're talking with a publisher, a comic creator, and the man that is on the show for his 11th time, Dirk Manning. How are you doing today?
Good to see you, my friend. I realize I'm like the fudge ripple through your vanilla ice cream, right? It just kind of like, just varying through. Although it's been too long, man. And congratulate. I know this isn't what we're going to be talking about, but congratulations on all of your continued success too, man. It's just been amazing to watch your journey and things like that. And I'm really happy and excited to get to be back and finally chat for a bit.
Well, it has been 2 years since your last interview. Back in 2023, we had you back on. We were talking about, I think we were going on volume 6 of Tales of Mystery, volume 5. Okay. This is why you go back and you got to watch his past interviews. You see, there's so much you can learn and know. And I still refer back to our Kickstarter interview that we had talking about basically from A to Z of how to Kickstart for comics. And that's a go-to thing for new creators on the show that I always point back towards. But I'm pontificating about past events. We're here to talk about the future of yourself here. For those that don't know anything about yourself as a creative person, tell us who you are and what you're bringing to Two Geeks Talking today.
Dirk Manning. I have written, I believe I'm at about 23 different graphic novel series, mostly creator owned. I live kind of in the genre of horror. I've published predominantly with SourcePoint Press, where I now serve as publisher, which we'll get to in a minute. But a lot of people also know me, like you said, from Right or Wrong, Writer's Guide to Creating Comics, started as an online series column, then turned into a book. It's been a wild ride, man. To publish 20 plus graphic novels over 20 plus years, not including all the side quest stuff I've done here and there. It's been pretty cool.
Well, that kind of brings me to my first question here. I saw this on social media. I saw that you became publisher at SourcePoint Press. When you stepped from creator to publisher, what belief about leadership did you realize was wrong, and what moment forced that realization?
I don't know if it's so much a matter of like what was wrong as much as it was like there was an opportunity to kind of right things, to kind of not to play on right or wrong. SourcePoint Press has been around for over a decade now, and they started as one thing, and as a lot of organizations do, they morphed and they evolved and they grew and things like that. I think a lot of people involved in the old regime will tell you they kind of got away from what originally made them very beloved to a lot of readers, to a lot of retailers, and things like that, which is really cutting edge creator owned work. And when the opportunity came up, take a leadership role, a larger leadership role with the company, it was a situation where that's kind of what I put forward. I said, look, let's get back to our roots of the company. Let's get back to doing creator-owned graphic novels and self-contained stories and things that people can really sink their teeth into. Little did I know that in proposing that, I was working myself into a job as now publisher of the whole company.
That's kind of a natural progression for you, though. I mean, you've been in the industry for 20 plus years. You've guided other creators, whether you've conversed with them, whether you've met them at conventions, you've collaborated on other books as well too. So I think this isn't really wedging yourself into a job. I think this is a matter of just your next evolution as a creative person.
It's funny. Several people have told me that over the last year now. Like we all knew it was going to come to this at some point, and I have joke. I wish you would have told me so I could have better stopped it from happening. Right? And I appreciate that. I do appreciate the kind words. It's the gray hair coming in, right? It's one of those things. It's like, you get to a point. I'm probably, well, not probably, I can guarantee you, I'm closer to the end of my career than the beginning, right? I've been doing this for over 20 years now. I have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and a lot of opinions, and I like to think they're informed opinions based on all the work I've done over the years. But I will tell you, as much as I thought I knew about publishing and about all of this work, the learning curve when you actually become publisher has been very steep. A lot of spreadsheets, right? A lot of things that you got to think about that you haven't thought about before, or new ways of thinking about things. That's why one of the conditions I had when I agreed to take the position of publisher at Sourcepoint Press was I wanted Josh Werner to stay involved. Josh Werner formed the company many years ago, helped co-found the company, and he has an institutional knowledge that I just don't have, right? I've always considered myself very much a team player with the publishers I work with. But I also recognize that I've always been kind of like Batman to the Justice League too, right? I come in, I do my thing, and then I go off and I tour for a year or whatever it is, and I come back with my next book. And I try to always be a team player and help out where I can. But now being involved in like the not being involved with, but being a huge part of the day-to-day operations of the company, you learn how much you didn't know, and that's exciting and it's challenging and it's stressful at times, but it's also a privilege to be in this position, a privilege to be able to now help usher in new creators into the direct market through the partnerships we formed and based on the reputation of the company, which hopefully I'm not going to drive into the ground.
Well, I mean, let's not hazard any guess or raise any red flags as to what may occur if that does happen. But let's let's think on a more positive aspect here. Having the skills as a publisher now, being in the industry for over 20 years, is there an invisible skill that separates publishers who endure from those who burn out, and how do you actively protect that in yourself?
Gosh, one of the things that Travis McIntyre, Josh Werner, who kind of headed SourcePoint Press before, did was they demonstrated a level of tenacity that really carried them to the point where then I kind of took the reins. And it's interesting because one of the things I got to see as I slowly started to get more involved, it was like special projects manager with the company and things like that, was it doesn't matter how much you're trying to do right by people. Some people still just want more, don't see it that way. And that's something that I heard from Gary Reed back in the day, with Caliber and Jim Valentino at Image and, then with Travis with SourcePoint, is that when you become publisher or editor in chief or whatever your leadership role is within a company, it's very important to look out for your people, but then also to recognize that sometimes no matter how much you're doing, it's not going to be enough for the people you serve and not taking that personally. I joke a lot that I hear Jim Valentino coming out of my mouth more and more every day. And I learned a lot from Jim from my time at Shadowline with Image. And I wasn't even there that long. The times I got to work with him and work with him directly and just my interactions with him, there are times Jim frustrated the hell out of me. And that's not to say I still don't necessarily or do agree with all of his decisions he ever made, but I've continued over the years to understand a better perspective for it. So I think that what keeps you going and what allows you to keep functioning as a publisher is one, doing the best you can by everybody you're working with, but then two, also making sure that you don't take it personally when things don't work out the way you want them to. And that can be tough, right? That can be tough. Any creative person has a certain amount of ego. The ego and the heart are also often very connected, you know. So just recognizing that sometimes it's just business, but at the same time, not using that as a callous shield to not treat people well either. It can be business, but you can still treat people well. But then just recognize if it doesn't work out. Don't allow that to really weigh on you heavily.
But it also comes back to the roster of SourcePoint Press, though. You've gathered a lot of creative talents over the years here. I know I've had most of them on the show. I hadn't looked at the SourcePoint websites in a couple of years. So when I went back to it, I'm like, oh, I've interviewed John Dexter, I've interviewed Wells Thompson, I've interviewed, et cetera, et cetera. You know, you have people like Josh Mallerman, Christina Blanche, Corrine Roberts as well. You know, what thread connects these storytellers that are this diverse beyond genre labels like horror and pulp?
I'll tell you the biggest thing, and every creator I've talked to about this. The model that we have at SourcePoint Press is not going to work for everybody, but it's going to work exceptionally well for the people that it's designed to work well for. And I'm not trying to be cryptic when I say that, but I will say that every system is perfectly designed to get the results it does, right? All the creators you see at SourcePoint Press now, and the ones that we've been announcing, and the ones we'll continue to announce, are people that are out there and investing in themselves and betting on themselves and recognizing what a publisher can do for them and what they can. With SourcePoint Press, through our partnership with Prana, we can get their graphic novels into Lunar and Universal and comic book stores. Through our own relationship with Simon and Schuster, we can get the books into Amazon and Barnes Noble and things like that. As a publisher, we have a high tide that raises all ships in regards to the quality of the books we put out. And as a publisher, we can help get people a certain amount of pedigree, right? Back in the day, and again, you and I have been talking for many, many years now. It does something to your pedigree as a creator when you get the image eye on one of your books, right? And my goal is for the SourcePoint logo, help raise the pedigree and create more opportunities for creators who are with us. But that being said, it only does so much. And at the end of the day, the creators we work with are the ones that are out there just betting on themselves, putting in the work, getting on the road to conventions, promoting themselves online, promoting their books online, and things like that, you know. So the graphic novels we publish, our kind of taglines become, you know, comics with a sharp edge. Whether it's an all ages book or whether it's a pulp book or science fiction book, there's a certain sharp edge to these books. But then for the creators, these are creators who are out there doing the work. In full disclosure, and you can see this on the submission guidelines on the website, we do not pay for the printing of our creators' graphic novels. What we do is we help them print broker very economical printing. And then in exchange for that, they own all their own IP and they own all their own physical books so that they have stock that they can take on the road and make more money on than they'll even make by distributing the books through the direct market and through bookstores. But by being on the label and by being affiliated with us, not only do you get to be with, you know, Josh Mallerman's and Christy Blanche's and Corinne Roberts and ZM Thomas and all these cool creators, you also then get the other pragmatic benefits of when we're not shining the light directly on you, you still have the opportunity and the drive to get out there and market yourself and push yourself.
I find it interesting because you have, I'm going to say, at least 10, 15 creators currently. You said there's a submission guideline as well to submit potential comics and potential working with these people in the future. I think that's really amazing to see. But when you're evaluating these types of pitches or people, you know, what are the specific tells, creative or behavioral, that signal a potential long-term high impact creator for SourcePoint?
Obviously, when I look at a work versus when like Josh Warner looks at a work, we all have our own preferences and biases and things like that. But you look at a guy like Wells Thompson, who's out there just busting his hump, right? Just got the Ringo. He's out there. He's doing shows. You can tell when you pick up a book like Frankenstein the Unconquered, for example, that this is a book he is passionate about. It's that passion for the work that I think attracts me the most to a project. Now, obviously, we're staying away from, for the most part, superhero stuff, for example. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff out there, and we do have to curate the type of books we're putting out so that people know when they see the SourcePoint logo, you can get a certain type of thing. But even you look at the lineup here on the screen below, right? And you got the Bible 2 and the Damnation of Charlie Wormwood and a Werewolf Western book, right? Are partners at Prada joked about how we put out weird books, and I said, "Yeah, get ready because we're just getting weirder." Right? But people that embrace that uniqueness about them and putting out something that's definitively them or definitively their team. I can't tell you, I mean, I probably could, but I have to think about it, how many submissions I've gotten that involve Frankenstein. It's just like this weird thing. There was like a cultural zeitgeist of Frankenstein right now. But Wells was the first one we picked up and one of the first ones we published because of the fact that you can tell that's a book he's very passionate about. And when every page you just see the passion for the project. And when I met Wells in person, like at C2E2 and stuff like that, well before this whole source point thing came together, you can see he's just a passionate guy and he's passionate about his books and he's willing to get out there and do the work. That's who this model is designed for. And admittedly, in full disclosure, I recognize that that's the kind of model that I've done for myself too. I think all success is subjective, but I think I've had a pretty successful run. If I look back to even our first interviews that we've done, and see where I'm at now and the amount of books I've put out and stuff like that, and I've done pretty well. I'm not going to say I'm content, but I'm proud. If we can help provide these opportunities through other creators, through the SourcePoint Press model, to do that, to be with a publisher they're proud of, to help get access to and keep access to their own books and their own IP and things like that. That makes me happy to be able to pay that forward to other people. There's creators that have looked at our model and said, this isn't going to work for me. I can't afford to print my own books. And if you can't print books at the prices that we can get them to you for, then this definitely is not the right model for you. And that's okay. And I've been there too. A couple grand is a couple grand. I get it. But if you're to that point and you can invest in yourself and you're going to get yourself on the road and promote yourself at interviews and things like that when your book goes in the direct market, and you are producing a book you're passionate about that fits in those subgenres that we're looking at, I hope will be on your radar because I think we offer a very, very good deal to creators that want to invest in themselves. A creator I just talked to the other day said his face lit up and he goes, "This is kind of like self-publishing with benefits." And he was like happy about it. I'm like, yes, exactly. We're not going to own your stuff. You can leave whenever you want. But if you want to get your books in the direct market, be in a cool imprint, we're your people. Get to the point.
I think it's interesting because all of these creators are so used to doing everything solo because they're forced to. It's been like that for 20, 30 years because they're the Kickstarter model and crowdfunding and publishers and everything like that. Web comics back in the day, even that's still a model for success for some. It's just amazing to see how it's evolved over the years, and I think that if this model works for them, then this seems like a great avenue to go by here.
Well, no, but I think it's a very valid one too. And even when you look at my history going back to publishing in online comics and stuff like that, right, in the early 2000s, the creators we talk to are the ones that are embracing that model of no one is going to love your baby like you will. And there's a lot of benefits we can give you through SourcePoint Press. But I've had this talk with several creators, kind of to your point about when your book is in active solicitation through the comic book stores and then later in the bookstores, that's when we're going to shine the biggest light on you. But everyone gets their moment in the light. And sometimes you talk to creators who maybe don't have as much experience as a little younger, and they say, well, how are you going to promote my book? And I say, well, we can hook you up with these assets and these avenues and things like that. But the idea that we're going to talk about your book forever is not realistic. We'll always be proud of the book. We'll always promote the book through the channels that we have, and you'll always be part of the family. But that intent, that spotlight, that flashlight, that's a limited time because everyone gets that moment. When I got a book out, I'm going to get that moment. When Steve Thomas gets a book out, it's going to be his moment. When Christy gets her book, it's going to be her moment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And John with Alpha Dogs, he was in our first month of launch. He's got another book coming out with us later this year on Dime Store Detective. Then he'll get his moment again. But it's almost like the spotlight stays stationary and we kind of move through it. So that's why, to your point, we are working with people that get that and are going to get out there and still grind and use us as an additive to what they're doing rather than being completely dependent upon us.
I think that's the hardest part about promotion is because if you're not self promoting yourself through social media, if you're not doing short content, if you're not going on interviews, and you're just hoping for the masses to come to your book because it's the best thing you've ever written, but you're not promoting yourself, then how do they know? It's like if a tree falls in the woods, does it really fall? Or does anyone hear it?
There's a lot of great stuff out there that doesn't get seen. I'm talking to you in a room full of graphic now. I've right here off camera, stack of graphic novels all throughout this room, graphic novels, and I haven't even read everything in this office yet. And you can walk through Artist Alley and see tons of people doing cool, cool stuff. At the end of the day, it's your obligation to let people know what you offer and your vibe find your tribe, right? I do mainly horror stuff. When I have people come to my table at a convention or something like that, and they say, "Oh, first off, when you look at my table, you should have a pretty good idea of what I do." But the picture of that guy in the top hat and the scarf, there's a reason for that. It's like this is spooky area. When people come back and say, "Oh, I really don't like anything scary," and I tell people, then this probably isn't the spot for you, and they get taken aback, and I'm like, I don't want to waste your time or my time, right? You have to know what you offer to people and then be able to hone in on that. It's crucial. That's how a quality product combined with strong promotion starts to sell. And it's not that this is all about the money, but again, when you're investing in yourself and you're investing in your brand and you're investing in your career, ideally you want to be able to make some of that money back. And that's how you do it. You create quality product and then you talk about it.
It's interesting because there's so many avenues of creativity out there. You know, you can create short films, you can create content, you obviously have digital art, you have live streaming of your work if you're an artist or if you're a writer doing sessions. You know, there's so many ways to promote yourself and to promote the comics that you have, especially with the stable that you have currently with South Point Press here. But how do you lead a company full of these types of creative people who are used to being in charge of their own works?
I hold the door. I've been very clear with everyone that there's only 24 hours in a day. I too am still working as a creator. I did not aspire to have this position, but I can hold the door and I can build the infrastructure which will allow us all to have success if you are willing to put the work in. And that's really what it comes down to. I have a lot of experience. Josh Werner has a lot of experience. We're happy to share that experience with people and things like that. But everybody can only get so much time. At the end of the day, we are looking for creators who are willing to go out there and then just put the time in and put the effort in. It's funny. I think part of this goes back to kind of my martial arts background, where our Grand Master, we would see him twice a year. He was from out of state, and we would see him twice a year. And sometimes he would show us something even very minor, like how like you're curling your thumb on like a block or something like that, right? And I swear to you, he would come back in 6 months and he would say, fixed thumb. He goes, I tell you nothing else. And I'm not being disrespectful. That's just, if you know our grandmaster, that's exactly how he talks. He goes, fixed thumb. I show you nothing else. He goes, you fix, then we do more. And that was it. And you didn't get anything else from him. And I'm like, how does he remember like that, the foot or the thought, whatever it was he told you? But that's also part of it too, is like, I'm learning as a publisher that you learn real quick who's willing to take what you have to say and apply it and not. And again, my way is not the only way, right? Just because I wrote a book about it, just because I've been doing this 20 years, my way is not the only way. There are people that have started later than me in the creator owned space that have a lot more success than me. I'm not a TikTok guy, for example. I try to do a little bit of TikToking here and there. I'm not comfortable on video content. That's why you always see me touching my face and stuff like that. It's my natural inclination to not be on camera, right? But I do know what works historically. I do also try to look at who the creator is and talk to them about what they can do. It's funny, before we were talking, I was answering an email to a creator we have coming up. We haven't officially announced her book yet, but she signed and things like that. I'm really excited about it. We were talking about our print run and like how many books to print. And it's like, well, here's all the different factors to consider. Sometimes you have these conversations with people and you know that they're not listening to you, they're only waiting so they can talk again. Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do what's right for you. There's a couple creators I've talked to who I just said, look, this isn't going to be the right model for you because what you want to do does not align with what we're doing. And that's okay. Again, you don't let that stuff into your heart, right? You don't take that personally. The people that we're working with, I value their independence. I value their drive. I value that they want to do it their way. And as long as we all understand that Josh and I have a certain amount of time to give everybody, and that we're building systems to kind of fire you out of a rocket the most we can, we'll give you like the initial liftoff, but then you got to steer and drive after that, right? And there's some people that are going to hear this and kind of talk smack about it. Find a better way, to do it for other people, or find a way that works for you. But this is what we do. And the creators we're working with, they get it, they appreciate it, and we think they're going to have a lot of success on this model.
So, how do you weigh creative risk against long term commercial sustainability when you greenlight a book?
It's funny. There's a conversation we're having now, and other books are going into the direct market. I really appreciate and value projects that very much speak to the true passion of the creator. You got a book like Alpha Dogs by John Dexter. That's a passion project for him. Or Z.M. Thomas, the Bible too, right? Or I mean, you pick anything we have in our roster, right? They're all passion projects. I also tell the creators we're only releasing 2 to 3 graphic novels a month. That's our plan probably for the next 2 years, as it sits right now, as I'm sitting right now talking to you. We don't want to flood the market. We want to give everybody a chance to let their book shine a little bit. Um, but because we're only doing 2 to 3 books a month, if a book we put out demonstrates that is not connecting with our audience through buys, it may not be something that we can dedicate that slot to moving forward. Right. I mean, it's just that simple. Again, that's business. We we release 2 to 3 books a month. And if it's just not connecting, it doesn't mean it's not right it doesn't mean it's not a good book. It just means it's not the right book for us. I've had books that I have been extremely passionate about that I've had at publishers that did not sell through that publisher, but yet when I go to conventions, literally flies off my table. you know I mean, so I would understand why sometimes the publisher's like, we don't want to keep working with this book, but I'm like, I can literally just set this book on the table and people just pick it up and buy it. It just wasn't the right fit, and that's okay. So that's kind of what we're looking at as we move forward too, is that same type of scenario where is this the right fit for what we're doing, and the right fit for our audience, and the right fit for the retailers and things like that.
You're always used to pitching at conventions here. Let's flip the script here from a publisher standpoint. If SourcePoint had to pitch to creators, what would your pitch be
Mm.
to win the best minds in indie comics?
Our pitch is very simple. When you work at SourcePoint Press, when you work with us, you own all your IP. You're also going to own all your own stock. And what I'm about to say next, I'm not saying to make ourselves look taller by making other people look smaller. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of different publishing opportunities out there that do not offer terms that allow creators to control their own inventory, their own intellectual property, and directly monitor their own profit on their sales and profit as much off of their sales as much as we do. I've joked that our submission guidelines at the SourcePoint Press website are almost offensively transparent because I want people to know exactly what they're getting into. We are not going to pay you to print your creator-owned book because we're not going to own any piece of it. We do a straight profit split on books that we sell on your behalf through our channels. The rest of the money is yours. The rest of the books, well, all the books are yours, but those are the books that we even take in and distribute for you. A creator I talked to the other day, lit up when he said, this is like self-publishing, with benefits. If that idea intrigues you and that idea makes you smile, check out sourcepointpress.com, check out our submission guidelines, put something through for us.
Scaling is always interesting, especially since you're only putting out 2 to 3 books a month in that respect, which means you have to have at least, I don't know, 12 months in a year, 36 books plus, let's say. twice on Sunday if you sell like that. I don't
Right.
know.
Albuquerque, right? Right.
Exactly, yeah. But when you're looking at SourcePoint Press in the next few years, what does scaling without losing soul look like in practical terms?
I'll let you know when we get there. No, to me, scaling ultimately comes down to what is the market response to what we're doing. If we exist as a niche publisher doing weird, esoteric, horror, speculative fiction books from creators who are passionate about the work, and we never crack the top 10, but our creators are happy, that's fine. If retailers start responding well, they recognize the level of quality that are in these SourcePoint Press books. They're able to market them to their audience and their customers and things like that, combined with us getting the word out through things like we're doing here, talking to you, and people recognize almost like a record label. I don't know this creator, but I know if SourcePoint Press is putting it out, I want it. That would allow us to scale more and still, like you said, maintain kind of the soul of what we're doing. It's funny, I think a lot about my time in music journalism as well through all this. And like there were certain record labels that any album they put out I would look at, or certain producers, any album that they were producing, I would check it out. Like, oh, Rick Rubin's producing a country album, I'm gonna check that out, right? Or oh, Rhino Records is putting out this new collection. I haven't heard this band, but this greatest hits, but I'm gonna check it out because they do really cool stuff. As long as you can maintain your brand integrity and put out high quality, I believe that we will be successful in that regard. And then we'll continue to look at what the market's going to support. We're not doing issues, we're doing graphic novels. Graphic novels aren't returnable. We recognize that too. And that's something I'm very clear to the creators about. But I know readers want new stuff, they want original stuff. And we are going to be offering that very consistently for the next several years. We have, I think, 40 books on our roster right now in various stages of production and things like that. Yeah. So we're going to be here for a minute, knock on wood.
Is there an unconventional publishing or marketing experiment you're either running now or eager to try that would make traditional publishers nervous?
I think the nature of some of the stuff we're going to be doing might be looked at like a little bit like market disruption a little bit. SourcePoint Press is putting out our first horror manga this year. We're going to be doing some all ages books that are digest sized. But then at the same time, we're working with Josh Mallerman, his first ever graphic novel. You know, he did Bird Box. He's got Other Mommy coming out this year in theaters. Ron Chaney, we brought back London After Midnight as the most famous lost horror film of all time as a graphic novel. But then we're doing the Bible too. Then we're doing Frankenstein the Unconquered. We're bringing back into the direct market Christy Blanche's Damnation Charlie Wormwood. Then you got a book like Bug Bites by Corinne Roberts, right? John Dexter just did Alpha Dogs, and now he went from superhero canines or superpower canines. Now he's doing this like true detective, like weird supernatural pulp detective book. And then you got my weird thread of stuff running through everything right now because and gosh, Josh Werner's book that's going to be coming out in October. Oh my gosh, people are not ready for it. Josh Werner is doing a book, and I'm not going to say what it is. I promise you, and you can quote me on this later. There has never been a graphic novel like Hollowbane by Josh Werner. Ever. Yeah, we get some cool stuff coming.
Because you're releasing like 36 plus books, I kind of hinted at that a couple of questions ago. Like this coming year, what's coming out in January? What's coming out in February, March? Tell me who's on the docket, so to speak, that we can look forward to from SourcePoint Press.
Gosh, we got some really cool stuff. Alex Alabis has got a book coming out called Chivalrous Arts with Ryan Tavares. Tavares is an artist. I really like his work. I'm excited about that. John Dexter's next book is coming out, Dime Store Detective. Like stoked about that. Nandor's Seasons book. I always said we're not going to do superhero books, but he did such a unique spin on the genre that I wanted to get that out there. Kind of equivalent, almost like a demo in a way by Brian Wood and Becky Cloonan, kind of the closest thing I come to. Uh, I'll tell you what I'm really looking forward to is not having so many Dirk Manning books in the lineup, quite frankly. um, one of the things is that as we're working with these creators and we're getting their books printed and things like that, I've had a backlog of books that haven't entered the direct market because, when SourcePoint kind of went through this transition. So it's like to keep our market presence, I've been moving a lot of my books into the direct market that haven't been there yet. Now, to be fair, like one of them, I worked on a book with Josh Malerman, right? I worked on, RSVP ESP. I don't consider that a Dirk Manning book as much as that's a book I did with Josh Malerman. He's the star of the show. Same with Ron Chaney and Chaney Entertainment for London After Midnight. But I kind of wince when I see our lineup and I'm like, oh, there's two books and one of mine. There's a book and there's one I worked on. I look forward to in the next 6 months pulling away from that. When I did the initial math, I realized that I think the first year and a half, I could have a book of mine every month come out that hasn't been in the direct market. So I'm looking forward to getting away from that. I can tell you that much. Dr. Christy Blanche, Damnation, Charlie Wormwood, bringing that back. I'm excited. I mentioned a moment ago, we're doing our first horror manga. We got a cool all ages book coming up. We're talking to a couple creators who maybe have had issues come out through other publishers that maybe never got a full release, some really high quality stuff. So stay tuned. And ideally, we're going to have less of my half face in there moving forward as well. Because there's so many great creators that are their books are at the printer right now and things like that. And we're starting to work those into the mix. I'm exceptionally excited. I will say too one more. Z.M. Thomas did the Bible too. I think one of the most viral comic covers of all time. You can see it down here. He's also done some really cool like horror books and things like that. So like the Biotic Crisis he did. That's going to be such a tonal shift from Bible too. I cannot wait for people to see that one. That's another one I'm really excited about. One more, Joshua Ross, Divinity Calls Shotgun. Oh my gosh. It's like Dogma by way of Jeff Darrow. Yeah. Riot Force by Austin McKinley is like the best 80s cartoon that was never made. We're putting an omnibus of that collection, and then he's already working on his next creator-owned book, which is kind of like a science fiction-y kind of pulp book. Lots of cool stuff, man. Lots of really cool stuff. I'm really excited.
So a lot to look forward to then.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, and less of me, which I'm most excited about.
You're just clearing out your garage so that you can actually park your car. That's what you're doing.
Well, you're right. That's exactly it, right? It's like I can finally get these books back out there, but no, but there's stuff that just hasn't been in the direct market. And I mean, SourcePoint Press is obviously reflective of my tastes as well as Josh Werner's tastes. But all jokes aside, getting Homestead, for example, which was nominated for the Ringo as a finalist for Best Original Graphic Novel of the Year. The work that Les Garner did and Rao Blackhawk did on that book and things like that. I'm so excited for that to get out there to the people. That was a book that was solicited in issue form right before SourcePoint went on hiatus. So it never came out in the direct market. Everyone who reads Homestead has been moved by it. I'm excited to get that out there. But then like I said, I'm also excited to fade more and more behind the scenes as we move forward, contrary to popular belief. Yeah.
Just pull the Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Pay no attention to the guy behind the mask. It's like, just I want to facilitate more and more of these creators getting their books out there and then drop some of mine in once in a while, get Tales of Mystery back into the direct market. Some of my new creator owned stuff. We got a really solid lineup these next my brain went to publishing terms. These next several quarters, we've got some really cool stuff lined up. But we do. I'm really excited.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I know, Dirk, we could talk all day about everything and anything. Obviously, any of your stable at SourcePoint Press is always welcome on the show. I'd love to have them back on. For those that have never seen past interviews, a lot of the creators he's talked about, like John Dexter, Nador, Wells Thompson, they have been on Two Geeks Talking in the past, actually talking about Alpha Dogs, Frankenstein Unconquered. I know Nader talked about one of his previous works, I think before he switched to his Seasons one. So a lot of great past creators that have been on the show too that you can watch on this show. We're wrapping up here, Dirk. As always, you're always welcome back on here. Eventually you may tie Trevor, but who knows? We'll see.
Listen, I know what you're doing, and I'm glad that Trevor finally got ahead because he was always right behind me. So I took a step back, decided to relaunch SourcePoint Press to open the avenue up for many creators. And Trevor's another guy that hopefully at some point we can work together. I know he has so much stuff going on. But that being said, I gave him 2 years. You and I will be talking again sooner than later. I promise you that. It will not be 2 years before we speak again.
Fair enough. I appreciate that here, Dirk.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
For those that want to support, of course, yourself and SourcePoint Press, where can they find you? How can they support you? And they should support the amazing creators you have that are going to be appearing in 2026 and beyond here.
I appreciate that. Yeah, sourcepointpress.com. You'll see on our website, we're very creator focused. You can see our creators and the books they published. Go to your comic book stores. We release our books to the comic book stores through our partners at Prana. So if you go to the Prana publishers and look for the SourcePoint Press books, check out the graphic novels. Treat yourself to a complete reading experience and go that way. And if people want to find me, they can just look on most social media at Dirk Manning. Look for the guy at the top end of the scarf, or go to dirkmanning.com.
Well, like I said, that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. You can, of course, find Dirk's past 11 interviews, 10 plus interviews, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media. The podcast you can find at Two Geeks Talking. That's TWO Geeks Talking, wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm on social media. Two Geeks Talking, Kurt Sasso. Find me wherever you search and I'll be there. It's all good. But as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on Two Geeks Talking.